But all eyes are on the World Economic Forum. Trump has said that he expects his trip to Davos to be successful. And just days before his appearance, Trump threatened tariffs against Denmark and 7 other NATO allies that have deployed troops to Greenland, while reiterating that there is no going back on his plan regarding the Arctic island. Criticizing Denmark, though, the US president had said that Copenhagen failed to address the Russian threat and ignored NATO warnings on Greenland. Donald Trump reiterated that now is the time, warning tariffs will remain in place until a Greenland deal is finally locked. Meanwhile, European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen has issued a strong warning to Washington, saying Donald Trump risked pushing transatlantic ties into a downward spiral. And calling additional tariffs on allies a big mistake, she said Europe's response will be unflinching and united, while pledging cooperation with the US on Arctic security. In fact, here's what Donald Trump said before he left for the World Economic Forum.
So I'm going to Davos. I believe it will be very successful. The trip, the country's never done better. We have $18 trillion plus coming in. We've never had anything like it, and no country has had anything like it. Prices are way down. Gasoline now is $1.99 in a lot of places. And frankly, nobody's seen anything like this. So it's really good, but this will be an interesting trip.
Mr. President, are you committed to keeping the U.S. in NATO?
I've had such a good relationship. I've made it so much better, so much stronger. It's so good now. NATO is so much stronger now. I don't agree with a lot of the things they've done, but that was done before I got there. I think NATO's been good. Sometimes it's overrated, sometimes it's not. But we have a strong NATO. When I came here, we had a weak NATO. We had a NATO at 2%, and they weren't paying. You had a nothing NATO. NATO's, whether you like it or not, it's only as good as we are. If NATO doesn't have us, NATO is not very strong.
How far are you willing to go to acquire Greenland?
You'll find out.
How far are you willing to go to acquire Greenland?
You'll find out.
On Arctic sovereignty, we stand firmly with Greenland and Denmark and fully support their unique right to determine Greenland's future. Canada strongly opposes tariffs over Greenland and calls for focused talks to achieve our shared objectives of security and prosperity in the Arctic.
My colleague Vishnu Shom has been tracking the latest developments for us on Ground Zero. He joins us live at the moment with the plan of action for the day. Vishnu, even though Air Force One is returning to Joint Base Andrews as we speak due to a mechanical issue, Donald Trump arrives in Davos later today, drawing enormous attention across the venue, even the globe perhaps. From where you are, what's the mood among global leaders and business heads? Is there anticipation, anxiety, strategic calculation in the air?
The focus on Davos at the World Economic Forum is more intense than perhaps it has ever been. The world stands at a crossroads, particularly the relationship between Europe and the United States. The US President Donald Trump will be speaking over here at 2:30 p.m. local time. There's a 4.5-hour difference. We'll be broadcasting that speech live on NDTV. But just ahead of that speech, and with the arrival of several European leaders here, the differences which exist between Europe and America are being seen very, very sharply. I'm going to go through 6 key developments which have taken place in the last 24-odd hours. There has been chaos in the markets. There's been turmoil in the markets. The UK's FTSE 100 fell 100%, with similar drops in France and in Germany. The Golden Dome, that is the missile shield which America intends to set up in Greenland, is something that the US has once again reiterated. The US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent in Davos itself has said that that remains a priority, and therefore there is no change as far as America is concerned about its acquisition of Greenland one way or the other. Now, the European Union, which is now in an absolute crisis with its relationship with Donald Trump and the United States, has threatened counter tariffs as well. Remember, it was Trump who actually said that there would be 10% tariffs on key European nations who oppose his plans for Greenland. That would start from the 1st of February. That could go up significantly more to more than 20%, possibly 25%, if they don't agree with his plans on taking over Greenland. So there is talk now of an anti-coercion retaliation by the Europeans, with the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and the French President Emmanuel Macron both issuing very, very stern warnings to the United States. Macron signaled that the EU should not hesitate in responding to Donald Trump. The next key point, the Russian Foreign Minister, Mr. Lavrov, has now intervened, and he said that, in fact, it is not necessarily, or Greenland is not necessarily the territory of Denmark. This is a key statement because it's a statement that seems to back the United States. It adds confusion to an already very delicate situation in Europe, since Russia, remember, is in a war with Ukraine. So the differences being sharpened, being made more intense, possibly because of these Russian statements as well.
Vishnu, there's also intense focus on how Trump may engage Europe here, right? But Davos also has a strong Indian presence, as you've been reporting. How is the Indian delegation reading Donald Trump's return to this global stage? Is it being seen as opportunity, or is it being perceived more in terms of cautious engagement?
As far as the Indian reaction is concerned, remember, we've got senior ministers over here, for example, Ashwini Vaishnav. We've got an incredibly large Indian delegation here. Davos becomes a mini India every single year when the World Economic Forum is held. And there are Indian businessmen, business leaders who will be meeting Donald Trump tomorrow as well. So Trump will be talking business as well. But everybody is watching from the sidelines what's going to happen, because the implications on this, as we've already seen on global markets, is quite extreme. Therefore, everybody focusing on that speech of Donald Trump and what happens next, not least of all Indian business leaders who have important links with the United States and Europe.